Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing really well. Today I wanted to talk about a topic that's been on my mind a lot lately. I feel like I don't know, it's honestly really weighing on me. So I thought we could sit down, chat, get a bit vulnerable, and let me know if this is something you deal with. I'd be really interested. I feel like a lot of people have it. I know I'm not alone in this, but I did just want to talk about it and add in my two pence because I think we're in a time of really waking up right now. And I think me thinking about the topic of today's video is a part of that process. So, yeah, as you can tell by the title, today we're talking about perfectionism. Perfectionism is something I have struggled with since as long as I can remember. But before we get into that, I wanted to talk about what perfectionism is. What does it mean to be a perfectionist? I've written a couple notes on my laptop here, so if you see me looking down, that's where I'm looking. Also, I'm not feeling 100%, so if I seem a bit not 100%, that's why. But that's also just me doing a disclaimer because I'm a perfectionist. Great. Okay, so what is a perfectionist? A perfectionist is a person who has the idea that perfection is attainable, whether it be your morals, spirituality, or even just day to day, like in school, work, um, how you live your house, like how you live at home, even. When I was looking up, it said in psychology, it goes alongside striving for flawlessness, as well as being highly self critical and fearful of other people's evaluations of yourself. It's highly self destructive because there's obviously no such thing as being perfect. Hey guys, just me editing really quickly. I wanted to very quickly say that I don't actually love the term self destructive, but it was within the definition that was on Google. I did want to very quickly say that I think the term self destructive isn't very compassionate towards an individual, possibly yourself, that doesn't know how to prioritize themselves or put their best interests at heart and doesn't feel like they can do that, because learning to take care of yourself and prioritize your best interests is something that you have to learn to do. So I just wanted to say that very quickly and say that I don't agree with that term, because I also think it puts even more pressure on you if you are a perfectionist to get things right. The term self-destructive feels very blaming, and I don't love that. So I just want to say that very quickly. I've already been talking for a minute. Okay, I'm gonna go. Something that I thought was really interesting was that being a perfectionist allows you to avoid feelings of shame, guilt, embarrassment, forms of judgment, and feeling like you're to blame, because it's easier to be disappointed than it is embarrassed or wrong. I think many people find being to blame and in the wrong for things really difficult, myself included. I'm definitely not apart from that statement at all. But perfectionism actually sets you up to feel more shame because you're setting yourself in a mold that is so unrealistic that you don't even fit into it, which I just think is really interesting. How it's obviously a coping mechanism, but it is counterintuitive to the goal you're actually trying to meet, because the goal doesn't exist. It's like that Amy March quote. I literally watched Little Women yesterday with the girls, and I love that film so much. But it's when she's like, I want to be great or nothing. It's just like, yeah, I feel that, like, that's always been me. And I think that that doesn't allow you to exist fully as a person, as a human, anything. Because to me, from my experience, it feels like you are kind of like waiting for your future to begin, because my ears have just popped, spiritual confirmation, because you think that once you meet this goal, things will get better, or once you are able to achieve like greatness, whatever that means, then you'll be living the life that you're meant to be living, when in reality, like, that isn't the case. In regards to my own experiences, I wanted to just say like a little bit about how I have noticed being a perfectionist has impacted or affected me growing up. I'm only 21, So obviously very, very young. Perfectionism, as I said earlier, perfectionism is a topic that's really, really been on my mind. I think it's because of the artist way. Week 5 of the artist way is all about being open to different possibilities and the possibility of like being aligned with like a divine source that has your best interests at heart. And it got me to thinking about how I have this absolute inability to like make mistakes. Like I grew up not allowing myself to be in the wrong or make mistakes, and when I was, it felt like the world was ending, or when I was perceived to be in the wrong, it was an absolute detriment to who I was as a person, because Roxy's never wrong. Roxy is always on top of everything, can do anything she sets her mind to, and will do it well, blah, 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 blah. All of that self talk. I used to be a massive perfectionist, especially at school, because obviously when you're a child, that's where you're at. Like, you're meant to be achieving. And I was always one of the people who was expected to do well and did well. And I'm glad that I did, but it also didn't allow me to make mistakes. And I think I hit like year 10, and like our family lost someone really, really close to us. And grief, like, kind of shattered that mentality towards school, because I think it put things into perspective, like this doesn't matter. But because I hadn't done anything towards healing that part of me, I then became avoidant of doing work and things that need to be done, because I didn't think I could do them well. Because I'm a perfectionist or a control freak or whatever you want to call it, I just became avoidant. And while I was like writing my notes, I was thinking about how, like, even with uni, I will leave things to the last minute. Like, I will, for example, I have an assignment that's set like 6 weeks before, and I will always do it like the last weekend, and I will do it in 2 days and buff it out. And honestly, like, I'm not doing badly, and I don't know how I'm not. But I think that my mindset is that, like, if I give myself less time to do something, then I'm doing my best within a pressurized environment, and that is enough. Like, I can understand and validate that experience more than I can having 6 weeks and something turning out not perfect or 100%. Like, I grew up being a very, very all or nothing type of person. Also, sorry if you can hear that. Someone is building a new driveway. Anyway, um, yeah, I grew up being an absolute all or nothing person. Like, even like with things like seeing friends or going to sleepovers, like if I wasn't sure about it, then I wasn't going to do it. And that was the same with school, or I don't know, learning to play the guitar, or doing well in acting lessons, or whatever it was. And yeah, I just have been really like deeping that a lot lately. And I think for me, this, what's the word I used earlier, this coping mechanism, because let's validate it, it's obviously a strategy that I've learned to keep going and do the best that I can, which is completely valid, but I just don't feel like it's like really serving me anymore. But I think it comes from two places. I think the first one, which is probably the more prominent one, is the fact that I spent a lot of my time being of service to other people, because I come from a single parent household and I witnessed my family need support. So I did the best I could at absolutely everything so that I was never in a place where I was an inconvenience or needed help. I found it very, very difficult to ask for help at school. And growing up with mental health issues, I found that even harder. Like, I'd have to reach my breaking point before I'd tell someone that I wasn't okay. And as I said, I'm an all or nothing person. Like, I was either incredibly like on top of the world, or I was in the pits. And yeah, I used to just think that if I was on top of all of my stuff, then I could help other people. But in reality, I think thinking you need to control everything at 100% is an incredibly heavy burden. And in a way, it kind of allows others to not be responsible and you to have all the responsibility, which isn't healthy either, to you or to other people. The second part that I do as an adult now notice is that when I was young, I obviously felt a sense of validation from being on top of everything, or being really smart or really good at something. Like, that kind of fueled me to keep going, and that definitely does now. Like, I'm not saying it doesn't, but the older I'm getting, the more I'm realizing that I need to be able to make mistakes and maybe upset some people sometimes, and realize that I have upset people in the past and allow myself to just exist. And I wrote down here that I feel like I've reached this point of questioning how authentic that is for me, like living in this mold, because A, authenticity is really, really important to me, and B, as I've said, I am a human being. I know what I'm here for, and that is to be authentic and myself. And I am someone, it's like innate that I'm going to make mistakes because you need mistakes to grow. And something I think I have noticed is that I feel really dependent on the fact that there has to be change. Like, the thought of something being stagnant and staying the same is actually like really scary to me. But then, because I've not like validated the versions of me who have felt I needed to be perfect, I then get in this headspace of questioning if I'm growing enough or if I'm doing my best, and then being a perfectionist with my growth, which is just like wild. Like, I'm honestly not very sure like as to how you fully reach this point and get dependent on this strategy, because it is one of my best ones, or one that I've really, really clung to. Like, I grew up thinking I needed to be the funniest person in the room, or the smartest person in the room, or the person who could do, like, I don't know, like the best handstand. Like, I just needed to be right. And even now, the thought of having upset anyone, even people who have upset me, is really threatening. And I think now I have reached a point, and I'm just deeping this because I was looking at my books and I was thinking about how every year, like, I set reading goals that are lower than what I reach every time because I know I'm going to like exceed them, which I just think is really, really interesting. Because then am I actually like pushing myself to do better, or am I staying within this safe mold that is good? You know, I don't know if anyone else has this, but the thought of not being a good person is actually really scary. Like I literally just froze, like, thinking about how scary that is. But like, for example, like the thought of like people I'm not friends with anymore thinking that I'm not like kind or nice is incredibly like intimidating, but it's also something I have absolutely no control of and isn't actually my business. Like, people are entitled to feel and think however they want about anything, and that includes me, and I fully understand that, and I'd never take that away from anyone either. But the thought of having like not done something successfully or been the best version of myself at all times is something that really worries me and has been on my mind a lot lately. I also did want to preface that, like, I understand how common this is. And I think it really does come from a place of like being of service. And I think for me, as a woman of color, I've like felt the need to like walk into every room and work twice as hard, or think that I have to work so much harder within this system because it's not made for me. And yeah, I don't know if that is like, because my mum made it very, very clear. My mum's white, my dad's black. So my mum made it very, very clear that she would always support us and do our best to do her best, even to like make sure we were aware of what worked for us and what didn't. And my mum is so like on it with like social politics and injustices, and I am too. Like, that's just how I was raised. But I do think that there's a part of that that became hyper aware of the threat of never being enough. So then I worked overtime to be more than enough, you know? But then, who are you being enough for? And this leads me on to how to learn from and deal with perfectionism, because the first thing that I wrote down was to ask yourself who you're doing this for. Because in reality, I think it feels more external than it does internal, because I know me and who I am and who I want to be is someone who is accepting and understanding of showing up in any way that I need to and that others need to, and respecting that. Like, that is who I am at my core, because that is, to me, that is what compassion and love is, and that is how I strive to be. What else did I write down? Yeah, I just wrote down how when things are like set for you externally, you're never meeting a requirement because you have so many questions of that requirement, because you don't like, then it's not yours, you know. So you haven't set the framework for the system that you're in. So it's super important to come back inwards and figure out if it's your standard or not that you've set for yourself. Because for me, I know it isn't. And it doesn't mean that much, because I really do not think that my parents have been pressuring with things like that at all. I think it's just something I learned from my environment to best get by. Like, it's not a critique of anyone, of myself, of any of my family members. It's just an understanding and an acknowledgement of how I felt that I needed to be and how I don't think that serves me anymore. Also, when you're looking at perfectionism, the key to it is self love and acceptance and practicing that, because of how deeply linked perfectionism is to shame. And I remember, I think it was like last year, I watched a YouTube video. I will put a screenshot of it here because it was literally like exceptional. And it was of I think he was a doctor of psychology and he was a lecturer at a US uni, and he was talking about chronic shame and what that means and blah blah blah. And it allowed me to really recognize that a lot of my anxiety isn't anxiety as such, it's more shame and perfectionism, basically. And that's where a lot of my stress comes from, is the possibility of inability. Whoa, kind of just like blew my own mind with that one. Because I do think that I was fortunate enough to have a family that I still obviously still have, that is like, you can do anything you want and you can achieve anything. So the thought of not being able to do that is terrifying. But then it's also a massive pressure to do my best, because I'm never 100%. Like right now, like I don't feel too well. My period's just finished. Like I'm not 100%, and that is totally okay. And I'm allowed to be that. But I don't always feel like I can be that. Regarding perfectionism, you have to acknowledge that, and this is just a fact, that you will not always make others happy or be on top of anything, and that you are going to upset people and make mistakes. And if that is really difficult for you to acknowledge, I get it. Girl, that is me. Like, I understand it. Then that is where you need to go into that little dark hole and ask some questions and fill it with love and validate it, because that version of you from that time period is under so much pressure. I think the key is all about learning to allow yourself to exist in literally whatever way you need to show up, and honoring all of the versions of you that have shown up, even the ones who have been really, really upset when you haven't been able to do what you thought you wanted to do, or when you've made mistakes and hurt people. And something that I think is really, really interesting is we sometimes forget that the standards we set for ourselves are reflected in the people around us. And because everything is a mirror, it's really important to remind yourself that being a perfectionist yourself also demands that of others around you. And when they don't meet those unrealistic standards, you feel really let down, and therefore even more responsible for being on top of everything because of something that they couldn't accomplish. And by couldn't accomplish, I mean like within the perfectionist part of you. Doesn't mean they're not enough, doesn't mean they aren't doing well in their own way, and that is totally valid, because the reality is it's no one's job to be perfect, and it's no one's job to be perfect for other people. And that is something I've noticed within myself. Like, I grow up feeling disappointed even in like my family or my friends when they wouldn't like behave the way I would. It's like the mindset of like, oh, like I would have never have done that, I can't believe she did that, I would have never have done that, blah blah blah. But that person isn't you, and you aren't them, and you are judging someone else within your own standards, which aren't even necessarily like fulfilling you anyway. So then you're just gonna feel further disappointment and further judgment. And the answer is within connection, not disconnection. And judgment and a lack of compassion creates a disconnect and a separation, when in reality, what we're here to do is Avengers Assemble. Okay, you know what I'm saying? I think that the key of what I'm trying to say with this video is that it's really important to prioritize mindful practices that allow you to, and honestly like force you to listen to your inner voice when the noise just like gets too loud, and to turn negative self-talk into positive self talk in regards to things that you can accomplish. I also find the word accomplish really, really difficult. I'm going to actually look up what the word accomplish means. Honestly, it just says that it means to achieve something successfully. And that then again forces me to like question, like, why do you have to be successful? Like, success is subjective, and it is such a individualist and capitalist framework that is like in opposition to like human nature. Humans haven't come here to work in businesses and launder money and pay taxes and argue and compete with one another. I really don't believe that this is what we are called to do. And I think when you feel desperate to be successful, you are pitting yourself against yourself as well as everybody else. And you are the only person that has your back, and you have to honor that. Like, I'm reading here, I'm not sure because this is just on Pinterest. I can I can screenshot this, and I've downloaded the image, so I'm going to put it here. But the top bullet point says that perfectionism is not a way to avoid shame. Perfectionism is a form of shame. Where we struggle with perfectionism, we struggle with shame. Exactly, Queen. Exactly. It's really interesting reading up on it. Like, has allowed me to really think how much I have like had no middle ground, like growing up, and I'm really trying to build this middle ground now, and that's really, really hard, but really, really important for my journey. Like, people are saying how it's all about progress over perfection. That is so interesting. It's talking about how perfectionism is obviously stemming from a childhood experience of conditional love, where you felt as if your achievements elevated how loved you felt. And in all honesty, I do think an element of that is how I feel. As I've said, I think that being a single parent is exceptionally hard, and being a child of a single parent caused me to want to do my best with everything. And if I didn't feel like I was enough. And I'm reaching a point now where I'm questioning who I have to be enough for. I don't know. I hope that made sense. I don't know. I just felt like this topic was really, really important for me to think about and talk about with you guys right now. I'm sorry I sound like this. I don't feel 100%, but that is okay. I feel like I touched on the artist's way earlier, but I am redoing week 5 right now because as I said earlier, am avoidant. And I didn't do it the way I wanted to, so I'm redoing it. But I am really still enjoying it, and I will be completing it. With that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any thoughts on perfectionism, please do let me know in the comments. Let's get a discussion going. I'm sending you all my love, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Bye, guys!